there was a lot of borrowing for over militarization.
Over?
Militarization.
Well, militarization.
Oh, but what I read is it is like this. Sir, it was because of when the silent movies tend to talkies. There are overcrowding at the cinemas, and because of that, the 1930s depression was tied over. This is one argument, no idea I read somewhere. It was because of the talkies. Unlike the silent movies attracted less crowd, but talkies attracted more crowd to the cinemas. So that led to the tiding over of 1930s depression, economic depression.
No, that's not true.
But I read it somewhere.
No, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. I've not come across this at all, and literally everybody, irrespective of which spectrum of political views they belong to, is agreed that the world came out of the depression because of military expenditure. I mean, Tim Bergen said it, and there's something which the left says. As a matter of fact, if you want specifically, you see, Roosevelt's New Deal was actually bringing the US out of the depression. But then the New Deal was much opposed by US finance, because of which Roosevelt, is very strongly opposed to finance. He got cold feet and he cut down on the fiscal deficit, because of which the US had another depression in 1937. So the recovery was cut, it had another depression. On the eve of the Second World War in the US, while consumption goods industries were producing at reasonably high level of capacity, maybe about 80-85% of the capacity use, the capital goods industries were producing only at 10% capacity use. Okay, that got overcome when they started doing rearmament.
Any other questions?
Subramanian, and I'm actually a student of politics and not economics, so beg your pardon if I, please correct me if I, anyway, you talked about how to institutionalize certain political rights and financing the welfare state to do it, and I think Thomas Piketty basically suggests the same thing, except for the fact that he is asking for 4% of the wealth tax or something. We went for 2% of wealth tax. So anyway, how does it actually go in with the fundamental change in the way we organize our protection and distribution system? Actually, we see basically the system is producing the inequality and poverty, which actually pulls down to the economic crisis. So what happens after the welfare state? Because there is no fundamental change in the way we organize the protection and distribution system. Why couldn't recover this crisis?
Income tax and wealth tax exist at the same time. Will it cause a double taxation? And in case of tax evasion, is there any advantage in case of wealth taxation?
Yeah, all right. This is thing I've talked about. Economic right, production, distribution system. Fundamentally, it is impossible to have economic rights of the sort I'm talking about within capitalism. Okay? That's my view. But on the other hand, I am a leftist. Okay? There are lots of people who are not, who would actually say, no, capitalism can give you this. So I'm telling them, that's fine. Let's agree on this. Okay? I believe it's not possible that in the process of struggling for it, you have to go beyond capitalism. But on the other hand, if capitalism can give this, very good. Okay. I mean, I have no vested interest in fighting capitalism. I'm opposed to it because it cannot give you these rights. Am I making myself clear? So if you like, these are in the nature of transitional demands. That these are demands which I believe the system really cannot give. But on the other hand, if it does give, well and good. Okay. Now, is there a double taxation, wealth and income tax? No. Why? Because, one is on wealth, one. To the extent that if wealth taxation reduces wealth, it will also reduce income. And if it reduces income, you pay less income tax. Okay. So conceptually, there is no reason why you can't have both taxes.
After listening to you, I thought about an old Malayalam couplet. വെറുതെ ഈ മോഹങ്ങൾ എന്നറിയുമ്പോൾ വെറുതെ മോഹിക്കുവാൻ മോഹം. That means I understand that all these wishes are not going to be of no avail, but still I would like to wish this. So there was this concept spoken about by, I think, Karl Polanyi about minimum social floor, how the European societies achieved minimum social floor. The Great Transformation in his book, The Great Transformation, the economic history book. So I think we were on the move towards that kind of a minimum social floor under UPA 1 and UPA 2. Right to food, right to education, right to employment, and so on. But then we had a reversal. So I think what you are saying is quite similar to what has been tried to be, what was tried to be achieved before 2014. So that would be a stepping stone for further economic development. I agree with that. But it would require a political struggle, maybe. So I would like you to clarify on what kind of political struggle would be required to achieve this. And secondly, this is a very simple economic doubt which I have, since I am not an economist. That is, the multiplier effect which you are speaking about may operate only in cases of certain commodities like food, shelter, and clothing. If you give income to the lowest sections of the society. So, but it will not create demand for the industrial products created by the industries, by the capitalist enterprises. So, how do we deal with that kind of a dilemma? That is a simple economic doubt. These two things.
Some are of the opinion that socialism is the capitalism of the proletariat. And the Chinese leaders now say that they accept capitalism because to realize socialism later. What is your take on it?
I agree with all this later. I don't believe in a stage theory. In other words, the idea that let us have a stage of capitalism, then we'll have a stage of socialism, I don't accept it. So I don't accept the theory of the Chinese leaders. All right, now coming to this question, UPA 1, yes, was talking about it, but they never succeeded in instituting it. Even the food, they actually had a legislation, you know, but that promised food only to about 2/3 of the population, not universal food. 2/3 of the rural population. So it has never been the case that you have actually had any attempt at providing a set of universal economic rights. Okay. Now, but I believe that you see that we talk a lot about capitalism, socialism, and so on. Let us forget about it for the time being. Okay. In other words, because that gives rise to the same kind of stage theory where, socialism is far away. Let us, in fact, reconcile ourselves to developing capitalism. Let's have a high growth rate and so on and so forth. It's another thing that you're not going to have a high growth rate. But let us just concentrate on a few things which are tangible and concrete. I believe that even doing so, by the way, I believe there is no contradiction between reform and revolution. I believe that basically a consistent desire for reform is ultimately what revolutionizes society. Now, as regards your wishes and reality, I just like to say that, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, who would have thought that universal adult franchise is actually going to be realized one day? 100 years ago, who in Kerala would have thought you'd get a universal adult franchise? Because after all, you had not only untouchability, you even had unseeability. So the point is, what in order to achieve something in reality, you have to conceptualize it, as Marx had said. So I think it's very important for a gathering like this of intellectuals, of students, of economists and so on, to conceptualize these things, not necessarily the way I have said it. By all means reject what I have said, but it's very important for us to conceptualize all this. Okay, as regards its multiplier, no, of course it's going to put income, because I'm talking about right to employment as well. So it's going to put incomes in the hands of everybody. And of course, if it does so, I mean, two ways the multiplier would be generated. One is that to the extent it puts incomes in the hands of the unemployed, and in the hands of the employed, to the extent that you give them a larger income than they were getting earlier. And secondly, if food is provided at low prices, if well, let's say 2 rupees a kilo or whatever, let's say if healthcare is free, if education is free, in that case it releases purchasing power for the purchase of other goods. So one of the reasons why you have had, Surajit was talking about this morning, one of the reasons why you have this acute recession is because of the fact that a whole lot of services now are costing the earth. Okay? And therefore people are economizing on their purchases of other goods in order to access even minimal health care, in order to access even minimal education. Okay? So you're not an economist, okay? Yeah, please. That, but on the other hand, that has been set aside. I'm not saying Keynes himself, but Keynesian economics had argued that. But that has been set aside, and now the argument has been put forward that social good is served by appeasing a bunch of corporate financial oligarchs. Okay. That's why corporate tax rebate is taken. But I have just argued that giving corporate tax rebates worsens the crisis as opposed to improving it. Okay. Therefore, it's very important for us to change that entire discourse.
I am an economics student, but now I ask this my worries as a common man. Sir, first of all, it's a wonderful class. Why not our politicians not use such a personalities? Yes, I am worried because Amartya Sen, Prabhat Patnaik, former RBI governor, the present Nobel laureate Abhijit Banerjee. Why they not use such a personalities? Because they create focus on the statues, because they never speaks. Sir, I already told you that this is a common man. My worry, sir, when you talk that, find out the additional 60.8 lakh crore, we can find something better than the present situation. After 1947 till 2019, how much crores have we used, sir? These amounts are where are going. If 130 crore people are living in country, if everyone have given 1 crore, Siddik sir, I Malayalam ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കണം. അതായത് ഈ 131 കോടി ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഓരോ കോടി കൊടുക്കേണ്ട സമയം കഴിഞ്ഞുപോയി. അത്രയും ഫണ്ട് നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. Keynes said that in the long run we are dead, but economics still function at the assumptions, but people living in the reality. What is the best solution for this problem, sir?
In fact, if we calculate that, then it is per capita expenditure may be close to 1 crore rupee. So that is the kind of expenditure we had.
Actually, we had a great session today, and we had a similar session back in Thrissur in Geometry Center, where you came and delivered a speech. We really talked. Sir, there you mentioned that.
I hope I didn't repeat myself.
Sir, there you mentioned that about writing of loans in agriculture sector. There you mentioned that writing of loans in agriculture sector won't help unless the agriculture is productive. Sir, my question is that today we are, giving more importance to corporate sector, the tax reduction and everything. Sir, how this going to help in improving the aggregate demand, especially in the rural sector? Especially in news, we have seen that the agriculture, rural consumption is declining and rural demand is declining, and the most of the rural consumption should come from the agriculture sector. Sir, how these measures going to help in improving the rural sector and the rural aggregate rural demand in our country? Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other question? This is the last one. Okay, last question.
Thank you for that insightful the philosophy that you gave about the redistribution of wealth. And so I have this doubt regarding the example that France followed about the wealth tax. Even though it encouraged social solidarity, there was an issue there because when wealth tax was imposed there was a news report that it lost almost 10,000 of its wealthy people to the nearby Belgium. People went away from France. So in India's case, we already have our business people having their assets in cash in other international banks in other countries rather than India. You talked about capital control before implementing wealth tax. So in India's scenario, even if this could happen in France, what will be the situation in India if wealth tax is really imposed? What is the practical difficulty regarding that? Thank you, sir.
Is quite simple. France didn't have capital controls. So I'm, because of the fact, you see, all countries have capital controls under the Bretton Woods system. But the point is that, that then Europe moved out of capital controls. Okay. Europe moved out of capital controls, let's say, in the late 60s and early 70s, then Latin America, Africa, India moved out of it in the 1990s. So, if you had capital controls, then you would not allow people. They may go. In other words, the capitalists themselves may go, but they can't carry their wealth with them. Okay, so that is something that you can actually control. Now, of course, it's true that even so, there may be some amount of money that may flow out, but nonetheless, that is a price worth paying for having a set of measures at the time. But you have to make sure that the outflow is kept to a minimum. Then, how will it improve agricultural production? Listen, what I'm saying is not, it doesn't preclude, it is not in lieu of, it's not instead of improving agriculture or instead of improving industrial production and so on. What I'm trying to say is that this you can do. In order to sustain this, of course, you would have to require agricultural output rising, you would have to have industrial output rising, otherwise you give all this money, but then if the goods are not coming, then they'll be inflated. Okay, so all this is not in lieu of, it is as a means towards promoting all this. But if you simply, okay, what happens now? Agricultural output, suppose there is a year in which agricultural output rises, people don't have enough purchasing power, then the government holds on to stocks. When it holds on to stocks, then it argues, you see, we don't require all this food grain production. It exports food grains. Okay? And it has been systematically exporting food grains throughout the neoliberal period. Okay? So people have to have purchasing power. So it's not enough just to raise agricultural output or industrial output. What is important is that this increase in output is associated with an alternative way of developing the economy where purchasing power is put into the hands of the poor. Okay? So what I'm saying is that suppose in the name of these rights, you actually put purchasing power in the hands of the poor, then you would also have to undertake corresponding measures to improve agricultural and industrial output. Okay? If private sector is not responding to the increased demand because they are angry about being taxed and so on, then public sector units have to be set up to cater to this kind of demand. If it is the case that the rise in food grain output, then you would have to have a whole lot of measures starting from land reforms to irrigation to higher procurement prices to cooperative farming and so on in order to make sure that this much of food is actually generated and so on. Okay. So one doesn't preclude the other. Then the question is, okay, you know, you quoted, can I just give a quote from Keynes? Keynes says that the ideas of economists and political philosophers are far more important than is commonly believed. In fact, the world is ruled by little else. So that, you know, again, of course, Keynes overstated, but you know, these ideas are very important because the ideas become a material force once they capture the imagination of the people. Okay, and therefore it's very important. Where do ideas come from? You know, I mean, we belong to a privileged section of society that is getting the privilege of education. Okay, so it's very important for us to, I can say all this, I'm pretty old and so I can say all this. It's very important for us to use our education not to talk about neoliberal rubbish, you know, about the fixed pool of savings and fiscal deficit crowding out investment and all that kind of stuff, but to in fact put such ideas which can then, you know, catch people's imagination. Then on the basis of that, there would be a political demand, there would be political change and so on. But if we don't do that, then we are missing the very first step that is required for change.
In the outset, I would like to actually thank first Professor Patnaik, who had delivered so marvelously about how we can actually, you know, hypothetically at least come out from the problems which we are in. So my duty is actually to talk about what is the seminar in a nutshell and what we discussed, and then I may repeat my vote of thanks to each one of you. So with that, in the first day, Professor Govind Rao had talked about the conditions of fiscal prudence, especially what is the current state and policies which India adopts. And then we had a very enriching session, and so question. Many had actually opposed that. You know, the debate was in fact on. The debate was actually started by saying that, you know, we have different views in India, and there are different schools of thought which is in fact play about, especially when we discuss about the crisis or slowdown, and starting from defining whether it is a crisis or it is actually a recession or a depression, or it is only a slowdown kind of thing. So we began with this particular notion of what is actually we are in, and we then proceeded. Many had different views, and Professor Ramana Murthy had pointed that ideology matters, and that is actually determines the political as well as the economic policy. And then from that we had actually different sessions like we have e-governance and different forms of governance, and then there are a couple of papers on governance. Kumar had actually talked about the e-governance and services sector efficiency, especially government sector efficiency in the local as well as the state level condition. And then we have a digital India mission and its importance, especially in LOC, how well it could be. This is actually a kind of reporting, and rather than others had a very pessimistic view on that particular stand, that we have everything good. If everything is good, then we may not be actually talking about the bad which we are right now in. So this kind of discussions were being initiated in that first day, and it is in fact a very enriching day. And the second session in fact started with the Gillespie framework. We talked about that. No, we have everybody, irrespective of which political or economic class you belong, everyone say that okay, Indian economy had a recessionary pressure, or the GDP has slipped at least 2%. So why and the probable reason of a 2% fall, and where we can locate was actually the point of discussion, which was in fact put out by Professor Narayana, and he was actually talking about the pension system, the new pension system. And he said that if you have a new pension system, in fact you are making a forced saving on one side, that is in fact reduces the effective demand on the other side. So this is what he was actually making, and he was using the Kaleskian framework, which was very well. Right now also we had the Kaleskian framework, which was used to largely understand the whole issue. So the same framework was being used by Professor Narayana, and it was in fact a very beautiful discussion, and I hope my students got something out of it. And then the subsequent session also talked about the debt problems, especially specifically on the Kerala's debt crisis. So we are not actually in a very good from a point of view of borrowing, and we are having a stressed state of affairs. So that was the focus of the discussion. And later we had discussions of Muralidharan and Vishakha Verma, and the first one was on the growth patterns of defense expenditure and how it is related with the textbook Wiesmann-Peacock hypothesis. And then we found out that actually the expenditure had unevenly increased and then gone back and kind of thing, and some relation he was trying to establish. However, the computation and calculation problem were being discussed as well as pointed out in that session. And then later we had a presentation on the contingent liability and the fiscal sustainability issue, and especially this contingent liability is a very important area of research which was actually not being discussed much. And fortunately, two people who were working on the this particular topic came. That is the first presenter as well as today's presentation is actually on contingent liability. That is the two people I know in Kerala who worked on this particular topic, and we hope that more studies may be going to come out in that. Especially it has a implication in the law and the legal side of that, but none of this paper in fact talked about the legal aspect of the contingent liability and all. But of course in future research maybe people will be taking care of that kind of situation. And then we had a presentation of Joe Sebastian and Jerry Alvin. Both presentation was in fact on the topic of especially on the strained fiscal situation of the state, Kerala state. Particularly, the Kerala state is not actually performing in the, if you check with the fiscal condition of the state, everybody has this worry that Kerala is having a, but forgetting the fact that we are spending and actually the growth is a positive one. And if you have a positive growth on this side, then you may be having a positive effect on the other side, irrespective of the fact that whether you are in a debt, whether your debt is actually increasing. Of course, we have a reservation that how much we can borrow, etc. And that debate was also on in that sense. So that discussion was in fact very, very live, and many of our students also got involved in that. And so I am so glad that they are at least involved in all this discussion. And later, Mohan had talked about the relative tax performance of Indian state, especially he was talked about the problem in generating fund as well as spending, the issues of spending as well as the management of the funds from an insider, because he is a person who is in fact a part of this whole business. So I think that was a very interesting session. And later Neeraja was talked about the attitude and behavior of the tax compliance in Kerala, and it was a very good attempt that she was surveying the common people and actually received their feedback on how they perceive different forms of tax, including direct and indirect tax. So that was actually the end of the second, that is yesterday's presentations. And later, today we started with the presentation of Professor Srijit Majumdar on fiscal consolidation and the making of current slowdown. In fact, it had put out everything in a compact sense that how we had actually slowed down, or basically the consolidation is not something which as we are something rosy. It is in fact the cutting down of kind of spending or whatever. So it is actually not giving us. It is kind of austerity. In fact, that is the. But you haven't used that word. You used only consolidation from the narrative of the government. So it is in fact needless to talk, because we have short memory, so I think all of you remember the presentation. So this is a very interesting paper in my mind, and unfortunately the second presenter couldn't turn up. And then we had a presentation of Chandrasekhar, a faculty of the university. He talked about the automobile sector. It's, from a management point of view, in fact, this is actually because the growth is improving, or the sector is actually doing well, and of course in the small car making industry is now having a problem. So something like that. Other than that, it is of course we need to know about different aspect of this kind of positive performance of the sectors than the grim picture always you were painted. So I think that is one way you maybe got some relief that okay, at least the Indian economy is doing good. And of course the following presentation of Archana Kamath was also on the contingent liability, which I have already mentioned. And then Professor S. Chandrasekhar had given an out-of-box presentation, because we are all talking about the fiscal performance, and he talked about, in fact, the income, household income distribution, and the income status largely on various state as well as from others' point of. In the beginning, he said that I am not going to talk, but I actually pursued him to come and talk, because this is, in my mind, this is also part of the macroeconomic problem we must actually know about. So then only if, the last lecture, which is also connected with, because if I want to improve the status of income, or if you want to give somebody free or whatever, from an economist language, it is always if you give anything free, or if you give any right, that itself we treat as freebie. So, but that we have to have some sort of a data backup to say, all right? So he was talking about that data backup, because the rural sector, the inequality of different segment is actually has been given in the presentation, and the final presentation I don't want to comment on it, and it is indeed a great pleasure listening again and again Professor Patnaik. So I always wish to listen whenever he speaks anywhere near. I used to go and attend all his presentations, so it is indeed in that sense I always get benefit, because the same maybe even from the beginning he said it may be actually repeating. Of course it is not repeating, it is repeating in one sense, but it is actually gives different perspective on the other side. So I always get in that sense honored to listen your presentation, and we are all thankful to your presentation. In all this presentation, in fact, I think in my mind, my students and largely our audience got maybe a better understanding about the situation, fiscal as well as the macroeconomic situation of the country. And on behalf of all of us, in one word, I thank each presenters who had showed their, they are very kind enough to come and participate in the thing. And on behalf of all of us, I thank each one of you. Thank you very much. Now I think the session is